Hey friends, tonight we're slipping beneath the velvet curtain, behind the footlights, into the creaking wooden bones of a world few ever saw. The year is 1601, the plague still lingers in the air, the Queen is growing old, and somewhere in London a playhouse stirs to life, with sweat, whispers, and secrets buried beneath the stage. If quiet history helps you wind down, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. It's oddly comforting to see who else is drifting off to the past. Now, dim the lights, settle your thoughts, and let's descend into the belly of the globe. Imagine, the city still sleeps, but down by the Thames, something stirs. You wake in a straw-filled loft above the stables, tucked behind a tavern where the actors sometimes drink too much. The scent of old ale and damp timber clings to everything, even your dreams. You don't own a clock, you don't need one. The rooks begin to stir in the eaves and the river calls through the mist. It is time. You pull on your doublet stiff with yesterday's sweat, tie the laces, fingers numbed from the night chill. Downstairs the tavern is silent, pewter mugs left sticky on the tables, and someone's boot forgotten in the rush to leave. The streets are empty. Your footsteps echo on the cobblestones, weaving past fish carts and sleeping dogs. The sky is ash grey, the city has not yet begun to stink. And then you see it, rising above the roofs of Southwark, like a halo of timber and nails, the globe. Your place of work, your place of wonder. But you won't be stepping through the front. You slip round the side, past the back wall, into the unlit alley behind the tiring house. A heavy wooden door waits there, always damp, always groaning. You push it open, and descend. The smell hits first. Damp rope, oil, sweat, and something older. Under the stage, it's not magic. It's muscle. You light a taper, shielding it with your palm. Shapes emerge, pulleys, sandbags, bits of armour, a pile of skulls made from painted gourds. One of them still has teeth. A rat skitters past. You don't flinch. You've worked here long enough to know every creak in the boards above. You know when an actor's missed his cue, when an audience leans in too hard, when the crowd turns ugly and fruit starts to fly. And you know your job. You check the ropes, but the trapdoor mechanism at centre stage needs greasing. The hinge on the ghost elevator still sticks. One time it caught during Hamlet, and the actor was left dangling mid-soliloquy, howling like a lost soul. The groundlings thought it was part of the show. It wasn't. You test the thunder run, a narrow trough filled with cannonballs and scrap iron. With the right pull, it roars like a storm across the gallery roof. If done poorly, it sounds like a drunk rolling downstairs. Next comes the scent table, dried herbs, burning orange peels, drops of vinegar. You'll swap them out mid-scene to create the illusion of a forest, or a plague house, or a battlefield. You are not an actor, you are not a playwright, but the story depends on you. You are a whisper in the wings, a hand beneath the stage, a ghost in the timbers. And when the bell rings out across the yard, calling the city's poor and wealthy, the noblemen and pickpockets alike, you'll already be in place. Hidden, waiting, ready. Because when the curtain rises and the players speak their first trembling line, it is your world they step into. Above you, footsteps. A low murmur, a laugh stifled behind fabric. The scent of beeswax polish, sweat, and perfume. You climb the narrow back stair, worn smooth by hurried boots and bare feet, and push through a wooden door that sticks just slightly in the morning damp. The tiring house. It's nothing like the stage. No grand speeches here, no applause. Only clutter, chaos, and preparation. The walls are hung with garments, layers of wool, velvet, linen, heavy with dust and dreams, gowns stitched from old noblemen's cast-offs, cloaks dyed in walnut and onion skin, a king's doublet patched with string, a beggar's rags neatly folded. There's no room for sentiment here, no time for vanity. A boy, no older than 15, stands still as a mannequin while a dresser binds his chest tight with linen. His cheeks are powdered pale, his lips reddened, his lashes darkened with kohl. In an hour he will walk on stage as Juliet, but for now, he is just Thomas, tired, quiet, waiting. Another actor warms his voice, humming into a cup to soften his throat. His hands tremble. He hasn't eaten today. He says it makes his face look thinner, more noble. There's a fight over a prop dagger. Someone's lost their cue sheet. A stagehand re-inks a fake wound with sheep's blood and vinegar. The master of the revels, white-gloved and cold-eyed, paces through the room. He nods. He listens. He watches. Every word, every line, every costume must be approved. One wrong phrase and the entire play could be shut down. The playwright fined, the company disbanded, the actors jailed. So no one jokes when the censor is near, not out loud. And there, in the corner, sits the man himself, Master Shakespeare. He's not in costume. He rarely is. He wears a worn brown coat, ink stains at the cuff, a scrap of parchment tucked into his sleeve. He watches everything, eyes scanning the room like a hawk. A page runs up to him with a question. The ending of the second act still doesn't work. A laugh isn't landing. A rhyme feels wrong. Shakespeare scratches out the line, rewrites it without blinking, hands it back without looking. He's done this 1,000 times. But even he feels it. That hush. That moment before the storm breaks, when the actors finish lacing their boots and wiping their palms. When the audience outside begins to shuffle and whistle. When the orchestra tunes a single lute string, sharp and trembling. Everyone stills. And then, the knock. 3 sharp raps from beneath the stage. It's time. The players form a quiet line at the rear entrance. They touch wood, whisper prayers, press charms into their belts. Not for fame, not for glory, but for memory. Because when they step onto that wooden platform, with no curtain, no lights, no tricks, they must become gods, orphans, lovers, murderers, fools. And the audience, mud-soaked and hungry, leaning on elbows, arms crossed, breath held, will believe them, if only for a moment, if only until the next line is spoken. Imagine the scent of sawdust and sweat, the crush of bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, the rough timber railing slick with grease from hundreds of idle hands. You are in the pit, the yard they call it, the standing room closest to the stage. You paid a single penny for the privilege handed over at the gate to a collector who wears a pouch like a noose. A second penny might have bought you a seat, a third, a cushion. But you don't mind the mud. You're a groundling. And though your feet are soaked, your stomach empty, and your neck already aching from looking up, you feel alive. The stage looms just above you, no barrier, no curtain. The actors are close enough to spit on you. And some do. Around you, voices rise like smoke. A butcher shouts for Hamlet. A washerwoman fans herself with her apron. A boy climbs a barrel for a better view, only to be pulled down by a bald man with garlic on his breath. 2 apprentices share a flask and argue over whether the play is a comedy or a tragedy. No one waits in silence. This is not a church, this is not a palace, this is the people's theatre, rowdy, restless, and utterly alive. But above and more in the galleries, the mood shifts. There beneath the shade of a painted roof sit the ones with coin to spare, merchants in stiff collars, widows in black lace, young men with gloves too fine for their hands. They lean back on benches, sipping spiced wine from pewter cups, murmuring judgments before the first line is even spoken. And higher still, in the Lord's room, are the glittering few, the nobles. They sit on cushioned stools, not facing the stage, but turned so the audience might see them. They wear tiny masks, not to hide, but to be noticed. Perfume hangs around them like fog. They speak as the play begins, not over it, but through it, as if the performance is merely background. And yet, when the words hit right, even they fall silent, because the play is a mirror. It flatters, it mocks, it wounds, it heals. One moment you're laughing at a drunken fool staggering across the stage. The next, you're holding your breath as a prince contemplates murder with tears in his eyes. The actors move like conjurers, turning the very air into something electric. And when a familiar line is spoken, one you've heard in the street, on a lover's lips, in a tavern at midnight, you feel a strange kinship with everyone. The poor man coughing beside you, the lord frowning from above, the boy on stage pretending to be a queen, you all share something now. A line, a moment, a breath, and for a flicker of time, London feels smaller, and somehow more human. But this spell is fragile. A heckler shouts too loud. A dog slips in through the back gate. Rain begins to patter on the open roof, and just like that, the illusion cracks. But it doesn't break, because the globe is built on noise, on flaws, on life as it really is. And when the actor raises his hand to quiet the crowd and silence actually falls, you know you've witnessed something rare, not perfection, but presence. Imagine. The sun is low now, casting long shadows down Maiden Lane. The curtain has fallen, the applause has faded, but the day is not done, not for the players, nor for those who follow them into the dark. You slip out the rear gate of the globe, past a boy sweeping away orange peels and chicken bones. The air smells of rain, coal smoke, and human breath. London's South Bank is restless, a place of spills and shadows. To your right, the Thames, sluggish and brown. To your left, a cluster of narrow streets where actors vanish the moment they're out of sight. No one watches them leave to Calum, but everyone knows where they're going. The tavern. A low-beamed room packed to the rafters, sawdust on the floor, grease on the benches, dice clattering on the table. Ale sloshes over pewter mugs, and the candlelight flickers against cracked panes and soot-blackened timbers. An actor stands in the corner, still half in costume, eyes glassy from drink. He recites lines from today's play, but not the ones he got right. No, the ones he missed, the ones he mangled, the ones that earned a groan or, worse, silence. A girl behind the bar laughs softly. She's heard them all. She'll hear them again tomorrow. Not far from her, a boy, not yet 16, counts coins with ink-stained fingers. He played a lady on stage this afternoon. Now he's just a face in the crowd, still powdered, still rouged, but no longer watched. He swears he'll save every penny. He won't end up like them, but they all start like him. Further down the alley, a smaller door opens into a tenement, 3 rooms stacked crookedly above a fishmonger's stall. You climb the creaking stairs. One floor smells of boiling onions, the next of wet wool and something darker, mildew maybe, or despair. Inside one of the rooms, by the glow of a sputtering candle, a man sharpens a feather quill. His hands are ink-stained, his eyes lined from too many sleepless nights. He mutters to himself, adjusting a scrap of parchment, testing a phrase. This one's not a player, he's a writer, or he wants to be. He's penned lines for the company, they filler scenes, dirty jokes, the death of a minor character, he's paid in food, sometimes not even that. But he writes because it's the only thing that feels like breathing. He doesn't know that in a few years one of his verses will be borrowed, then changed, then spoken by a man in a doublet before a roaring crowd. He'll never be credited, he'll never be remembered, but the words will live. Outside, a constable passes with a lantern, shaking off the stink of the gutters. He eyes the tavern, the tenement, the silhouettes in upper windows. He mutters something about sin and moves on. And still, the actors remain, drinking, whispering, arguing over cues, reciting speeches in Latin to impress someone who doesn't care, patching a boot with theatre glue, sewing up a ripped cuff with thread pulled from a borrowed coat. Because tomorrow, it begins again. The play changes. The crowd changes. The Queen could die. A new law could shutter the globe forever. But for now, in this little flame-lit corner of the city, the actors live in the afterglow, half invisible, half immortal. Imagine, you slip back inside the globe long after the crowd is gone. The floorboards creak beneath your feet. The candles have all been snuffed. It's quiet now, but not empty. Up in the rafters, someone moves. Look above you. The thatched roof rises like the hull of an overturned ship. Thick wooden beams stretch overhead, blackened with smoke, spattered with wax, heavy with rope. A boy climbs among them, barefoot, quick, focused. He carries a small leather pouch. Inside it, powder, herbs, and a coil of fuses. He's the firemaster. Not officially, of course. He's 12. But he's the only one small enough and reckless enough to scurry through the catwalks with smouldering twine. His job? Thunder, lightning, smoke. All illusions. All dangerous. He'll drop a cannonball into a drum to mimic the sound of war. He'll light a powdered cone to release a puff of white mist. The ghost enters. Another mix, this time with sulphur and pine resin. The gates of hell open. A trapdoor creaks. A soul is pulled downward. The audience gasps. But no one sees him. Now move beneath the stage. There's no light here, than only the glow from cracks between planks. You crouch in the dust, smell old sweat, wax, pitch, and dried blood. Not real blood, mostly. Just stage blood. A thick red concoction of pig's bladder, wine, and dye, warmed beneath the boards to keep it from clotting too soon. It's stored in pouches, hidden in sleeves, or stuffed in a sheep's stomach tied beneath an actor's doublet. One slice of the blade when the burst is glorious. The crowd howls, the pit surges forward, the actor collapses, clutching his side, and beneath the stage one a boy winces. He made the blood pouch too full. Again, these are the invisibles, the ones the play depends on but never acknowledges. One holds the rope that jerks a hanged man upward. Another waits with a clean cloak to help an actor change roles in under 5 seconds. Someone else pumps the bellows for a howling wind during the shipwreck scene. None of them are paid well, none are promised safety. One boy lost 2 fingers when a trapdoor slammed too fast. Another fainted from the smoke pot fumes. Still, they come, because to be behind the curtain is to be close to magic, to handle the props, to light the flash, to pull the strings and know that even the greatest actor is in the end at the mercy of your timing. On stage, a ghost appears. The audience gasps. Below stage, 2 boys nod at each other in the dark. The cue was perfect. The play is over. The final bow has been taken. The crowd has dispersed, their cheers lingering like mist in the rafters. The globe sits heavy in silence, and you, still half-dressed in borrowed velvet, slip out the side door, breath steaming in the cool evening air. You carry your own costume. There's no dresser, no assistant, just you, and a bundle of sweat-damp linen that smells faintly of rosemary and cheap wine. You cross the yard, stepping over puddles and fish guts. The market's closed, the stalls are empty, the city exhales and tightens. Your boots are worn. One heel clicks louder than the other. The actor's life is not grand. It is not royal. It is not safe. You pass a group of men in the alley, gamblers bruised and laughing. One recognizes you. He calls out a line you spoke on stage, slurred and mocking. You smile. You must. You can't afford offence. You bow your head, pick up your pace. There are no carriages waiting, no applause following you home, just the ache in your back from kneeling too long during the death scene, and the blisters on your palms from wielding a dull prop sword. Home, if it can be called that. At Key is a shared room above a tavern, 3 actors, 2 straw pallets, 1 cracked window. The smell of onions lingers in the boards. You share the space with fleas, scripts, and hope. Your supper tonight is bread, hard at the edges, and a small wedge of cheese. If it's payday, maybe a hunk of meat or a splash of ale. You eat with your fingers, you eat quickly. In the corner, your roommate, a tragedian with a hollow cough, practices his lines aloud, over and over. To be, he mutters, to be. And you wonder how many nights he'll say it before he no longer is. There is no pension, no promise. If you fall sick, you are replaced. If you speak poorly, you are ridiculed. If the Queen dies and the theatres close, you beg, but still, you perform. Because something happens out there under the sun in the open air of the globe. For a few stolen hours, you are a prince, a villain, a fool, a god, and when the audience leans in, breathless, when a child laughs or a noble wipes his eye, you feel it, you matter. You are more than your hunger, more than your aching feet. And though your room is cold, and the wind creeps in through the shutters, you sleep with the memory of applause tucked somewhere under your ribs. Tomorrow you will rise, you will rehearse, you will beg the costumer to mend your hose, and then you'll walk back toward the globe, toward the stage, toward the fire that devours and feeds you both. Ink stains on fingertips, a candle sputtering in the draught, parchment curling at the edges from damp. Outside, the bells of St. Mary le Bow toll midnight, but sleep is not an option. You are a playwright, and the theatre waits for no man. The actor wants his lines early, the manager wants a comedy quickly, and the crowd, fickle, loud, ever hungry, demands something new, something thrilling, something that will make them forget the stench of the Thames and the weight of their own hunger. So you write. You write in a room the size of a cupboard. Your desk is a crate, your chair a stool with one leg shorter than the others. The floor creaks with every shift of weight. The neighbour upstairs coughs in rhythm. The fire is long dead. You chew the end of the quill. The line won't come. The rhythm is wrong. The character's voice, flat. You scratch it out, again and again. In the corner sits a stack of unfinished pages, a half-baked tragedy, a ghost story with no ending, a comedy that refuses to be funny. Dead ideas, all. And yet, there's no time to mourn them. A messenger will arrive by dawn. He will take whatever you've written, genius or gibberish, and carry it to the theatre. Actors will read it aloud before breakfast. And by sunset, it may already be spoken on stage. No edits, no rewrites, no mercy. You rub your temples. Your head is full of fragments, Latin proverbs, tavern slang, bits of Ovid, rhymes about plague boils. You mix them all, stir them into dialogue, praying it lands. You write for the people, but also for the gentry. Your words must please both the illiterate beggar and the scholar with a furrowed brow. A joke about trousers followed by a sonnet, a sword fight followed by philosophy. Bread and roses, always both. The candle gutters. Wax pools on your page. You nearly knock over the inkwell. You haven't eaten since midday. But still, the words begin to flow. A horse, my kingdom for a horse. You pause, it's not bad. Might be something there. You work until the cock crows. Your back aches, your eyes sting. You have no illusions of immortality, no dreams of statues or school children reciting your lines. You are not Shakespeare, not yet. You are a man with rent due, debts mounting, and actors banging on your door. You write to survive. And yet, sometimes, when the words fall just right, when a scene breathes on the page, it feels like more, like lightning in a bottle, like time itself pausing to listen. You bundle the script, wrap it in cloth, leave it by the door. Outside the morning fog is lifting, soon the globe will open its gates again. Soon the crowd will laugh or weep or hurl rotten fruit. And none will ever know the night you spent here, ink-stained and exhausted, feeding their hunger line by line. Beneath the stage it is always twilight. You duck your head beneath low beam, stepping into a world of ropes, pulleys, props and ancient dust. The boards above your head creak with the weight of rehearsing actors. You can hear every footfall, every misstep, every recited line, twice. You are standing in the cellarage, the underworld of the theatre. It smells of damp wood, old paint and tallow wax. Here is where the ghosts wait, quite literally. The next actor to rise from below, through the trapdoor they call hell, plays a spectre tonight, or a demon, or a goddess. The audiences above never see the nerves. The actor crouched below, knees aching, counting beats before they're hauled into the light. And just beside them, under a cloth, a blood bladder for stabbing scenes. A crude bottle of vinegar and stale wine, meant to pass for poison. and a leather mask, grotesque and grinning, painted in flaking red. This is where illusion is born. You run your hand along the pulley ropes. They're frayed, stained from years of handling. They hoist angels, lower coffins. They are the unseen hands of the gods. A ladder groans in the corner, leading to the heavens above the stage, painted clouds on wooden panels. From up there, thunder rolls in the form of cannonballs rolled across iron sheets, lightning flashes from tossed white powder, rain drums from leather bladders, poked with pins. But here, below, it is all earth, all sweat. The mechanicals. A candle glows from a wall sconce. A boy crouches by it, smearing soot on his cheeks. He's doubling as both a fairy and a foot soldier tonight. You help him adjust the wings, patch linen with wire arms. They droop sadly. The illusion is flimsy, but the effort is everything. Further back, behind the support posts, lie crates of old costumes, doublets with missing buttons, a queen's robe now stiff with old grease paint, a powdered wig infested with mice once. No one threw it out. Nothing is wasted in the theatre. You hear the cue above, a single stomp. Someone is about to fall dramatically dead. You step aside, instinctively, as the body drops through the trap. It lands with a practiced thud, cushioned by straw. The actor gasps for breath, breaks into a grin and whispers, "Did they believe it?" You nod. For a brief moment, the world above had leaned forward, had forgotten their debts, their grief, their hunger. For one breathless beat, and they believed. You crouch, fixing the broken latch on a trunk of skull props. You hold one up to the candlelight. Hollow eyes, split jaw. It's been used in Hamlet, Macbeth, Lear. You wonder if it remembers its lines. You are not an actor, you are not a playwright. But here, beneath the boards, you are vital. You know which trap sticks, which rope threatens to snap. You know how to coax illusion from the dark. And when the curtain falls, when the crowd stumbles home, drunk on story, you will sweep this underworld clean, reset the ghosts, repack the poison, fold the tattered wings. No one will applaud you, but tomorrow the play will rise again, and so will you. The globe may shine with verse and velvet, but step outside its gates and the poetry turns to mud. Bankside, south of the Thames, outside the city's walls and laws, a district of liberties, which is just another way of saying anything goes. It smells like river silt, sweat, spilled ale, roasted meat, and something sour beneath it all. You walk slowly, carefully. The cobblestones are uneven and slick with filth. Someone is emptying a chamber pot into the gutter. Someone else is relieving himself into it. To your left, and the Rose Theatre, a rival. Sometimes it draws the same crowd. Sometimes it steals them. To your right, a tavern packed with sailors. Voices rise. A chair breaks. A laugh follows. No one's dead. Yet. You keep walking. Just past the taverns lies the clamour of Paris Garden, where chained bears snarl behind iron bars. Spectators shout bets from behind wooden fences. A trumpet sounds, and a bear is unleashed into the pit. Dogs tear at its legs, blood splashes. Children cheer. A bear baiting, they call it. Sport. Shakespeare himself sometimes watches. He doesn't cheer. Across the street, a brothel. Painted lanterns swing in the wind. Red light flickers behind tattered curtains. It's run by a woman known only as Mother H. Her girls wear rouge and cracked pearls. Some are older than they look, some are younger than they say. The law pretends not to see. The church preaches from across the river. But here, vice feeds the theatre. The same men who pay for love pay for lines of poetry. A boy hawks pies from a tray, meat and onion, still warm. You know better than to ask what kind of meat. Hunger makes saints into sinners. Even the apprentices in the playhouse sneak out to buy them. A woman sells oranges with a toothless grin. She throws in curses for free. A preacher stands on a crate, warning of damnation. He's ignored by nearly everyone, except a drunk who tosses a fish head at him. And still, the playhouse stands. It rises from this filth like a reliquary, made of timber and plaster, held together by sweat and showmanship. The globe is not apart from Bankside, it is of it. And like everything here, it is precarious. The crowd tonight will come from all corners. Nobles in silks and ruffles, merchants in patched wool, fishwives, cut purses, runaway boys. They'll laugh at the same jests, weep at the same deaths. They'll forget themselves, and for a while. Then the doors will close again, and Bankside will return to what it always is, a place of noise and mud and blood and survival. You return to the globe with dirt on your boots and a pie in your hand. A rat scurries into the shadows. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolls, but no one stops walking. The world spins, the play goes on. The globe's wooden bones hum with the energy of approaching dusk. In the tiring house, the backstage warren behind the curtain, bodies move in frantic rhythm. You are one of the actors, not a star, not yet. But you've earned a name, or at least the shape of one, enough to be recognised by a tavern maid. Enough to make a butcher's apprentice shout your character's name as you pass in the street. But none of that matters now. Your doublet is soaked in sweat before it's fully laced. Your fingers tremble as you smear white lead across your face, a mask of powder and pride. You check your lines again and again. You have said them 100 times, you will say them 100 more, and still, they slip like eels from your mind when the nerves rise. Beside you, another actor practices his death fall. A third reheats the sharpness in a line meant to wound. A boy, no older than 13, is fitted into a gown and tight blonde wig. He will play a duchess tonight. His voice is thinning, cracking. Soon he'll be too old for women, too soft for men. Then what? The wardrobe mistress is cursing. A stitch has split. A ruff has gone missing. Someone's hose has a tear. She patches with pins and threats. The playwright. He is pacing near the trapdoor, half listening, scribbling in the margins. The last act has changed again. A soliloquy is gone. A new jest has been added. You do not question it. You learn or you drown. There is no understudy. If your voice fails, the audience jeers. If you forget a line, another actor must weave around your absence. You dance on a tightrope with no net, only memory and bravado. Some actors revel in it. They bellow and strut. They wink through sword fights and flash grins at the crowd. Others crumble quietly. One man once vomited behind the curtain and walked on stage with wine-stained boots. The audience thought it was part of the act. You peer through the curtain. The groundlings are already pressed to the stage, beer in hand, jokes flying. You can smell the ale, the garlic, the rain-soaked wool. They are not polite. They are not patient. But they are ready. You whisper a prayer, not to God, but to the muse, to the spark, to the hope that something will ignite when you step into the light. A bell chimes. The curtain lifts. You are no longer yourself. You are a king, a knave, a ghost, a fool. You speak verse like breath. You move as if the words move you. You forget your sore feet, your rumbling stomach, the sleepless nights. You exist only here, suspended in the shimmer between light and shadow. The crowd gasps, laughs, listens. For a moment they are yours, not to command, but to carry. You lift them into something larger than themselves. A world shaped by rhythm, by fire, by the tremor in your voice as you speak of love, or revenge, or loss. And then, as quickly as it began, it ends. Applause, rough and real, rolls like thunder. You bow. The mask comes off. You return to yourself, or what remains of you. Behind the curtain, the boy is already scrubbing his face. The sword is back in its crate. The playwright is rewriting the final scene. Again. But for that fleeting hour, you were immortal, and tomorrow you'll do it all again. The cheers above have faded. Laughter, footsteps, the creak of benches, and they echo and dissolve into the night. But here, beneath the stage, the world does not sleep. It waits. You descend the narrow wooden steps behind the tiring house, ducking low under crossbeams blackened with soot. This is the cellarage, the hollow belly of the globe. It smells of damp oak, candle grease, sweat, and sulphur. A torchlight flickers off rusting pulleys and iron hinges. Ropes dangle like tendrils. Beneath the stage boards, shadows crawl. You're not an actor now. Down here you're part magician, part labourer, part guardian of the invisible. There is no audience for this. No applause for the man who cranks the wind machine. No glory in the ash-stained fingers that pack powder into a cannon barrel. But without this place, its secrets and smoke, the illusion above collapses. You check the trapdoor mechanism again. It's been sticking. The wood swells with moisture and creaks at the worst possible moment. If it jams mid-performance, the ghost cannot rise, the king cannot vanish. And worse, someone could break a leg. Above you, footsteps. You know each actor by the rhythm of their stride. You hear the muffled thunder of boots as the final battle begins. Time to ready the effects. You light the smoke pot, holding your breath as the mixture of brimstone and resin hisses to life. The stench is blinding. It curls around your face like the devil's cloak. You back away quickly. If it flares too fast, it could catch the underside of the stage. Near the rear, the hellmouth waits, a hinged opening disguised in shadow. You oil the hinges with care. One loud creak and the illusion shatters. Tonight, a ghost must rise from the dead. A pulley rig has been strung. The actor lies flat in a canvas sling, face powdered, deathly pale. His eyes are shut, breathing slow. He's done this before. Still, you whisper, on my count, 1, 2, pull. The body lifts, up through the smoke, through the planks, into terror. The crowd shrieks, not in anger, in awe. They believe it. You lower him back down after the scene, gently, carefully. The boards above grow quiet again, but your work isn't done. In the corner, a broken thunder sheet, a sheet of metal hammered for storm effects, needs repair. Next to it, a basket of dyed feathers. A stagehand once dropped them mid-scene, and a lover's dramatic suicide was greeted with giggles instead of gasps. You catalogue each object like a priest counting relics: a bag of pig's blood, a wooden dagger with a collapsible blade, a roll of painted canvas used for the ocean or the sky, or just something blue when nothing else will do. No one sees what you do, no one applauds when the ghost appears on cue or when the thunder crashes just right. But still, you stay. You wait until the last torch is snuffed, until the stage boards cool, until even the mice have stopped scurrying. You run a hand along the timber beam and whisper the last line of the play, just to yourself. You know them all by heart, because down here in the dark beneath the drama you carry the world they dream of above. The globe is dark now. The fire has died in the pit, the benches are empty. The players have slipped into the London fog like ghosts dispersing after a haunting. But the story doesn't end when the curtain falls. You follow the scent of roasting meat and spilled ale through winding streets, past the flicker of lanterns and the murmur of the Thames. Southwark at night is a breathing thing, full of laughter, brawls, and murmured lines of verse spoken not for the stage but for another round. Here, behind an unmarked wooden door, lies the Boar's Head, a tavern known to playwrights, pickpockets, and washed-up actors alike. The sign hangs crooked, the windows sweat with candle smoke, but inside, it pulses with life. You push through the door. Laughter hits you first, warm and jagged. Tankards slam on rough-hewn tables. Someone's singing, badly. Dice clatter in a corner, watched by a man in a velvet doublet who should know better. And there, in the far corner, Asphalt, sit the names carved into history, long before they knew they'd last. Ben Jonson, thick-fingered and red-cheeked, argues over a line of verse. He waves a quill like a weapon. Across from him, a quieter figure, thinner, eyes tired but bright. That's Will Shakespeare. He listens more than he speaks. When he does, the others hush. It's not that he's the best, not tonight anyway, but his words hang in the air like steam over hot bread, familiar, nourishing, necessary. You slide onto a bench nearby. No one asks your name. That's the tavern's law, anonymity, in exchange for silence or for song if the mood permits. An actor from earlier, the one who played Juliet, is still in half costume, face powdered pale, curls pinned up. He drinks deeply and laughs at something crude. Another man whispers about a patron who collapsed during the sword fight. Heart stopped mid-duel. Best reaction we've had all season, he chuckles. The table is a storm of crumpled paper stained with wine and grease. Drafts of scenes that may never be staged. Scribbles, cross-outs, one-liners that sparkle for a moment and vanish like spit on hot iron. You look around and realise, these men aren't legends yet. They're tired, they're drunk, they owe money. They argue about rhymes and rent with equal heat. And they keep writing anyway, not for posterity, not for glory, but because something inside them refuses to stay quiet. A young boy recites part of a soliloquy near the fire, cheeks flushed with heat and hope. An older actor claps him on the back and says, "That'll get you cast in summer." The boy beams. Plates arrive, salted fish, turnip stew, yesterday's bread made soft with gravy. No one eats delicately. This isn't a feast, it's fuel. As the night grows thick with smoke and song, Will finally speaks. Just a question, tossed into the table like a coin. What if the ghost isn't real at all? They all pause. Ben scoffs. Then what's the point? Will just smiles. He never explains. You sip something sharp and bitter. You'll forget the name by morning, but not this night. Because in this room, in the blur of ink and ale and midnight laughter, you see something rare. History, still in motion. Not yet fossilized into schoolbooks or statues. Living, breathing, breaking, revising itself, between candle drips and half-remembered lines. Tomorrow they'll return to the boards, the pages, the ropes beneath the stage. But tonight, they are simply men, flawed, funny, fierce, and utterly unwilling to let the story end. By morning the tavern haze has lifted, but not all its shadows have gone. Because here in London, words are not just words. They can be currency, they can be rebellion, and sometimes they can be a death sentence. The globe, for all its laughter and applause, exists under a sharpened gaze, while the watchful eye of the master of the revels. He's no actor, no poet. He's the state's appointed censor. His job, to inspect every play, every word, every intention. Nothing is allowed on stage without his blessing. Not a speech, not a single syllable. Scripts must be submitted days in advance, and any passage he finds too political, too personal, or too provocative gets cut. And if it isn't, if a company dares to perform a banned scene, well, that's no longer theatre, that's sedition. You stand near the back of the tiring house now, behind the curtain, behind the painted flats, as the company gathers around a new draft. A messenger delivered it before dawn, carrying the master's seal. One line is slashed in thick ink, another is reworded. A monologue is gone entirely, There's grumbling, quiet, muted. No one dares complain aloud, not when the audience might include a spy. Yes, the Privy Council places informants in the pit, the gallery, sometimes even backstage, men paid to watch the watchers, to listen for treason disguised as drama. The lines of a jester might mock a king too clearly. The sorrow of a queen might resemble the face of Elizabeth. A murder on stage might mirror a death in court. And suddenly, the playwright is in the tower. You remember Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe. Brilliant. Dangerous. Dead by dagger under suspicious circumstances. Was it a bar fight? Was it the Crown? No one speaks his name here anymore. Not above a whisper. You glance over at Will. He says nothing, but his eyes flicker toward the marked-up pages, not with fear but calculation. He's rewriting as he reads, pivoting, smoothing, keeping the danger in but under the surface. This is what makes him great. Not just the poetry, but the politics. He knows how to say the forbidden without speaking it plainly. He makes the audience complicit, lets them fill in the blanks, feel the tremor beneath the words. And so, a line that seems about Rome is also about London. A speech about Brutus is also about betrayal in the Queen's court. Theatre is a mirror, but it's also a mask. And sometimes the safest way to speak the truth is to disguise it. A boy actor hands Will a revised scroll, trembling slightly. "Is it safe?" he asks. Will looks at him, and after a pause, nods. Safe enough, for now. The trumpet blares. The audience files in, the players take their marks, and beneath every word, every jest, every tragic cry, lurks the question: who is listening, and what will they do with what they hear? The crowd is thick today, thicker than usual. Word travels fast. The Queen's men are in attendance, maybe even the Queen herself. Or so the rumours whisper like wind through the thatch. You're crouched just behind the stage wall, peering through a narrow gap in the set, one eye on the audience, one on the nervous actors adjusting their collars and pacing in place. Will isn't on stage tonight. He's watching too, more silent than usual. His hands clasped tightly behind his back, brow furrowed, as if each breath carries the weight of every line. The Queen hasn't officially visited the globe, but her shadow stretches across it. When she does attend a play, it's usually in the private halls of Whitehall Palace. But today feels different. At the edge of the crowd, high above the pit, sits a figure in white and gold, still as statuary. Too far to see her face, but the hush that falls over the audience tells you what no announcement could. It's her, the Gloriana, Elizabeth Regina, the Virgin Queen, the lust of the Tudors, and tonight, you all perform for her. The opening trumpet is softer than usual. The actors' voices tremble just slightly, but they hold. The play is King Lear, a bold choice, a story of aging, of power handed off too late, of the chaos that follows a ruler's slow decline, a dangerous mirror to hold up to a monarch nearing the end of her reign. But Will knows what he's doing. He writes with reverence, with subtlety. The words rise and fall like waves, heartbreak, betrayal, loyalty torn in two. And though the audience laughs in places, gasps in others, you notice that the golden figure in the high box never moves. She watches, listens, absorbs. When Lear cradles Cordelia, broken and grieving, the silence is thick enough to choke on. No dogs bark. No boats creak along the Thames. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. The final line drops like a stone. The weight of this sad time we must obey. And then, stillness, then the applause. It begins in ripples, then a swell, then a roar. But the Queen does not rise. Not yet. The company bows. One by one, the actors kneel toward the royal box, eyes low. And finally, she stands, just slightly, just enough. A small nod, not of approval, of acknowledgement. And then she's gone, whisked away through the back gate by guards before the dust has even settled. Will exhales slowly. The cast disperses like feathers on the wind, some wiping tears, others laughing in disbelief. You linger. You can still feel her presence, not just in the silence she left behind, but in the echo of the lines she heard. Because tonight wasn't just theatre, it was a reckoning, a final bow before the crown changes hands. And somewhere deep down, in the marrow of every player and porter and page, they know this moment will never come again. The torches burn low. You're alone now, or nearly so. The audience is gone. The nobles have returned to their carriages, the rowdy apprentices to their alehouses, and the Queen, if it was truly her, has vanished like mist from the river. Only the bones of the playhouse remain. The wooden beams creak as the wind shifts. A few embers crackle in the backstage brazier, casting flickers of orange light across discarded cloaks and empty goblets. Someone left a prop dagger behind, its dull blade sticky with stage blood and sweat. You move slowly across the boards, broom in hand. It's always the same at the end. Sweep the petals, collect the coins tossed by generous hands, right the overturned bench in the pit, and then, hush. You sit on the edge of the stage, feet dangling over the trapdoor. The hush isn't empty, it's full. Of breath held, of hearts still pounding from imagined battles, of ghosts who haven't quite left their lines behind. You look up. The heavens, the painted ceiling, still glows faintly in the firelight. Zodiac signs, angels, a sky for pretending. And overhead the real sky waits too, vast, black and star-pricked. Tonight it's clear enough to see the moon. You wonder if Will is still somewhere inside, pen in hand, already mending the next scene. You wonder how many of the groundlings will remember the words they heard tonight. How many will carry them home, reciting them softly, falling asleep with iambic rhythm tucked into their dreams. And you wonder if this place will outlast all of you. The truth is, the globe is fragile. It's timber, thatch, rope, and sweat, and luck. It could burn, it could rot, it could fall silent again. But for now, it stands. And you were part of it. Not a lord, not a playwright, not a knight. Just hands that hold ropes, that lit lanterns, that caught falling actors from behind the curtain. And sometimes that's enough. To serve the story, to hold the silence, to brush the dust from the stage. Before the next tale begins, you rise. The broom in your hand feels like a scepter, and for a moment, just a moment, you bow. To the ghosts, to the lines, to the empty wooden O that held 1,000 dreams. Then you turn and walk slowly into the dark.